Today, we're talking about if the Chicago Bulls should trade Ayo Dosunmu or Coby White this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Mazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about should the Chicago Bulls move Ayo Dosunmu or Coby White this season. And so we're going to be talking about something that Bulls insider Casey Johnson had to say on Stacey King's podcast, Give Me the Hot Sauce. And so if you've not got a chance to either hear this or see this, you can head over to Bleacher Nation and you can read about this. And so this is written by Elias Schuster. And so we're going to be taking a look at the quote from Casey Johnson and going from there. And so this is talking about the talks around Ayo Dosunmu. And so Casey Johnson says that I know for a fact the Bulls were involved in some pretty advanced trade talks with Ayo this past offseason that they couldn't finalize. So they're thinking about this. Whether or not they can get the right deal remains to be seen. I should preface or emphasize the Bulls love both Ayo and Coby, love them. They both fit what they're trying to do. They're extremely valued internally. All right, so that was Casey Johnson on Gimme the Hot Sauce. And so that leads me to really the buy or the sell. And so, are we buying or selling that the Chicago Bulls are going to trade both players this season? And so I'm selling on that. And just looking at, just would one player be traded this season? And so either Coby White or Ayo Dosunmu being traded and one remaining with the Bulls, I'm actually selling that as well. I don't think that the Chicago Bulls are going to move either. And so starting with the first point that is mentioned by Casey Johnson in talking about how the Chicago Bulls love both players and that they fit what they're doing. I think that, we've saw in the past that, the Bulls will have trade assets, but if they like players, I think that they generally will stick with them. And so I would not be shocked if, both players are still with the team and that the team is looking to go ahead and negotiate with them this next offseason and bring them back. And so that's the first point. I think that, internally, when you hear that around the Bulls, I do think that they are going to try to bring those players back. It doesn't mean that they won't listen to trade talks, but it may mean that they're going to lift the price on those players. And that could maybe scare some of these teams off from trading for either player. And so that's the first point. Next thing, that I think why I'm going ahead and I'm selling this is just that when it comes down to just what both of these players are going to do this season, I think that both are really headed to career seasons. I do think that with both. And so maybe that's a bit of a hot take, but starting with Ayo Dosunmu, look, I think that he is super motivated. I talked about this actually a couple shows back when I was talking about his video blog where he was back at Illinois and he was working out. And man, he was talking about his mantras and everything else. And so Ayo Dosunmu looks very locked in this season. And Ayo Dosunmu has also said that he's wanted to start with this team. And I think that this is the year that he really seriously has a chance to fight for the starting position at the small forward. I do think that that can happen. And I think that this is a player that certainly can average anywhere from 14 to 15 points a game. I could see that. I could also see that his steals could be up into, 1.5 steals a game. I could definitely see that. I could see the block shots going up slightly. And I also can see his assists going up as well. He was at 4.5 last season, and that was with limited time in this offense. And so we really don't know what Ayo Dosunmu is going to do with this offense. And I'm betting on Ayo taking off in this offense because I do think that Billy Donovan is going to have a role with him no matter what. So even if he's coming off the bench, you can expect for Ayo Dosunmu to really play some major minutes. Heck, he might even be the closer out there for the team. And so I just think that his ability to be a real two-way player for us, he's actually, I think, our best at this point. We'll see what happens with Isaac Isaac Okoro, so not to take anything away from him, but his ability to not, need a play run for him, and he could just take it off the bounce and go all the way on a steal. Like, I love that about Ayo, and I think that that's going to get him some points. And then you just think about the fact that Coby White and Josh Giddey cooking on the perimeter to go with Vooch, he's going to get lost back there. Like, with his player movement, he's going to find some easy baskets that way. And also, too, he's going to be available for some of those knockdown shots. And so he can very much be a 3-and-D type of player. I know he struggled with the three-point shot, but still, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt with the shoulder. And so, I think that he's headed to a career season. And then with Coby White, look, I think that he showed what he could do playing off ball with Josh Giddey. You move Zach LaVine out of the way. You actually give him a role that is the same, and you just go out there and you let him get into his bag as a scorer. I think that Coby White is, primed to go up some points, some points this year. And, will he be in the all-star consideration? I know a lot of stuff has to happen with this team as far as, being in a winning situation and stuff like that. But I do think that Josh Giddey and Coby White, these guys can make some noise, especially if they continue to play like they did a season ago. And so I don't think it's a far stretch to see Coby White go up another 5 points. I think he can definitely do that. When you look at the steals, I think that he could also get into at least one steal a game. He did trend up in the right direction last season, so I talked about that. And with his assist numbers, I know it dipped a little bit from the 5.1 to the 4.5, but I do think that he can get back to getting some assists because he's going to be in positions where he's going to get into the teeth of the defense. And there were times last year where he was driving and he was going for the home run ball. And I think that if he just would have, kind of slowed down, maybe gave, some cutters some chances to kind of run at the basket and stuff like that. And then also, too, with the team just understanding you don't have to just go out to the three-point line. I think that that's something that Stacey King would say repeatedly in the broadcast. And so hopefully this team understands, like, look, you can cut off of these type of movements. You don't have to sit at the three-point line. And so if Josh Giddey, or excuse me, not Josh Giddey, but if Coby White is driving and he's drawing defenders, he's going to have a chance to dump it off to some players for some easy baskets. And so I can see the assist go up for him there. And then when you look at the field goal percentage, it went up for him. I mean, 45.3%. So I could see that being right there and going up a little bit. You look at his three-point percentage. I believe that was on, a career high, right around 8 3-pointers a game. And so I could see all these numbers kind of going up for him. So I think that they're both headed to really career seasons. And I don't think that AK in this front office is going to want to move off of these players, because I think with them getting better, production from these players, I think it's going to help the Bulls' bottom line. And that's what AK in this front office wants to do. They want to win. And so, let's see what happens there. And then next, I think that with both of these players, what you get with them is leadership. They give you identity to your team. And I've said this before, that is important for any team that is trending in the right direction. You must have an identity. And I think that with Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White, they both give you that. They give you that toughness. They give you that grittiness. They're glue players. And I think of, players from the past, and I'm not saying that they're them. I'm talking about just from a personality standpoint, just from the grit. I think of Kurt Heinrich. I think of Luol Deng. And again, I'm not saying that they play like that. I'm just saying their mentality, their type of approach. Like, even if you do bring in, superstar players, I think that these are players that would fit what you're going to want to do, which is another thing that Casey Johnson talks about, is their fit. And what has AK said repeatedly? He wants to get, players with this younger players with experience, and Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu definitely are a part of your core, and they have shown that they fit your timeline. And so I just wouldn't see why AK would want to move off of these guys. And, you just have to ask yourself, would you get back the type of value that you're looking for from both players? And so I'm not sure about that. And I say that because, we really haven't seen that in the trades that the Bulls have done. I'm not sure that they necessarily go out there and they're looking to say, hey, this player is at, their highest value, as a trade piece. And now we're looking to get all this stuff back. I just haven't, seen that with this team in the past. And so just looking at what they've done there, I don't know if they're necessarily going to be looking to do that. And I do think this, if you're looking to move off of Coby White or Ayo Dosunmu, then you had better be looking to move off of Vooch. And I've said this before. I'm not even sold on the fact that they are going to be looking to move off of Vooch this time around. Like I think that you're probably going to see something like similar to like Alonzo Ball, where they're just going to let it play out. They're probably going to go ahead and re-sign him to a team-friendly deal and do a one-for-one swap. Like I think that that's probably what you're going to see from the Chicago Bulls. But let's see if they decide to do something different here. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. Are you guys, buying both players being traded? Do you buy that one of the other is going to be traded? Again, I'm selling on both of those, but you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And lastly, should the Chicago Bulls be looking to go ahead and trade both of these players? Because, if you are looking to trade players, again, you better be thinking as far as just forward thinking for this franchise. You need to get some more draft capital. You need to address, the future of the front court. And you're going to have to try to find, players to replace a guy like Coby White, because just going out and just finding a player to get you 20 plus that fits in, with this system and with these players and things like that, it's easier said than done, because you can go out and get some scores and things like that, but they don't necessarily mesh with what you're trying to build. And so that's what you have to think about. And then when you're looking at Ayo Dosunmu, look, you're looking at a really good two-way player that really could step into some great things here. And I think between him and Isaac Okoro, and maybe Patrick Williams, if he can step up here, and I think that Monis Bazelis is going to surprise us on the defensive end, these guys are going to be talked about with what they're going to do with their defensive pressure. And I think it's going to cover up a lot of the things that the Bulls struggle with the interior defense. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And look, as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.